Good morning, all. Here we are, January the 11th, and our recovery bounce from yesterday continues. We have been flirting up and down with that 50 on the S&P. We have that positive bias return and will remain for now. We have been higher on the markets. The longer term interest rates remain calm. Remember, today we have Jay Powell's confirmation hearing, so there'll be a lot of questions asked there. No doubt the algos will be running amok around different words. We have seen some of his early statement out last night. Basically, he's going to say the economy is blisteringly strong. Perhaps that's my word. He did say it was going to be very strong. That starts at 10 a.m. Eastern time. So we're a little bit later today, I should say, as we want to stay fairly flat ahead of that number with a good view of what can happen. We have upside guidance on a few stocks. One of them I noticed is CVS, who has been on a tear quite a bit lately. It was 52 weeks highs a few days ago. ILMN also upside guidance. And we have downside guidance on ANF and BIG. Rating changes out on IBM, VeriSign, Intel, TMUS, and AAL. We know, if you recall, that Intel went up quite markedly after the market yesterday when the chap from MU became their new leader. So the S&P at one stage was up 22, plus 22 fair value. We've come off a bit from that. Europe is up. In France is up pretty handedly again, up 1.4%. DAX is up 1.2%. FTSE's up 0.2%. In Asia, China was down and Japan was down. Japan was off the day before for a holiday. As far as crude's up, silver's up, and gold is up. Okay, let's go through the charts real quick here and have a look what we got. So if we looked, it was yesterday, and thanks for the comments too on yesterday's podcast, much appreciated. So we had a perfect ABC right to the top of the cloud. This is hourly, and we can see we've come off that. We're currently resting right around that breakup point, which is also 3.8. So we had a nice move here overnight, 4.8 or so. Let's have a quick look at the daily here. So if you recall, isn't it funny how these work? It's like magic. Our friend Hap would say, just like magical numbers, mystical numbers. But if we can see this, and we got the longer version here, but let's blow it up a little bit for you all. So yesterday we had this spike. We bounced right through, and overnight we tested the Tenkan, and here we are testing the Cajun again. So pretty clinical stuff. On the daily, I think we're all pretty aware. The support here, resistance would be getting through that and to the 50. And so it's got some work to do. That basically means it breaks the overnight highs and continues from the bullish side. So if we go to the weekly chart, very clear there too. We're above that Tenkan right now. Channel's very clear there, and you can see the basis of it, where it's come up from. Quite a set in stone trend line until it's busted, right? Okay, let's look at NAS overnight. I mentioned earlier that the tech stocks had recovered. We've seen a good 100 handle sell-off from the highs as the Nasdaq. So the big question, as I've said, is this an ABC, or do we have some major bottoming process in place? We have quite a few catalysts out, obviously the main one being the illustrious Jerome. And Apple, we can see that bottoming formation, but it's basically around and under what the high was yesterday. At this point, let me just double check something here as we look at this. So I had forgotten I did that. But same scenario right there. On Apple, the Russell, this is your weekly. Just wanted to revisit that. Remember the 50 held. If we go to our 60, same pattern. We got up and we're drifting down. What's noticeable on a lot of these is once these indexes, you can see the machines are in very much in the dominant factor and the reaction from. You've got bulls that probably thought about yesterday, went, oh, dang. They were absolutely, giving up hope, become very bad. When we saw this bounce in the aftermarket, we're probably, oh, man, I knew I should have bought that. And bears questioning their resolve, but as you can see, they've put on these levels back here. So quite noticeable there. Let's have a look at energy markets overnight. And here we have natty gas just sitting above the 4074, right where we left it yesterday on the weekly. Let's look at the 60 minutes. See, very much the same. We're down about 4 cents, but remember that pattern yesterday. Nothing to surprise here. Back here at the tank and the cloud. All this needs to hold. If this becomes 1, 2, 3, and this is more than just a correction of this, just keep it simple when you trade this. There's lots of varying news on this. Natty Gas has a lot of firm, what would you call it, heretics? Really extreme bulls and bears all the time. So bear in mind that the noise of it. Keep it very logical. You know it's weather. You know demand. Such reports about LNG. Remember what a hub is. You do have this gap above here, and you do have the cold weather. So let's look at crude. And crude overnight, lo and behold, isn't it? Kind of here's those mystical numbers again. So 240, we've completely recovered that breakdown right here. Remember that was right there at 79.50. We're trading over 80 again. And here we are, the tanking. We had that cross through and retest if you wanted a confirmation. And if we go to our daily, here we are. If you can see our daily, you can see it more clearly, that powerful move there, right? And weekly, same thing. Nothing to show. We're just confirming the same thing. So to get above this high would be meaningful. I would actually want to see it above the -1.8, or the +1.8, sorry. Obviously, we're well above the -1.8 to get through that. So keep all those positions in mind. Our mighty Bitcoin, what has it done? It had that big, we had Johnny on with us yesterday. This is a 5-minute chart. Let's go a little bit wide. And we can see we had this capture. We had a similar, and you can see there was obviously sellers waiting up here over 42.5. And here we are back all in this congestion point again. So that's our quick look at Bitcoin there. Currency-wise, not that chart. We just looked at that one. And the currency, the Aussie's been one that we want to take a look at in these kind of markets because it's risk. It's also commodities. And if you look at this here, we sold off from these highs. This is an hourly chart. We rallied again with everything, risk assets, and this has been leading us down. And overnight we saw Canadian dollar is the strongest and the Japanese yen is the weakest. That's a lot to do with the risk on, risk off. So if you look at what the yen's done this morning, it's just the dollar's just rallied all morning. Some of that's a take back, and it's interesting that this is moving a little bit inverse to yields, if you've noticed, which is unusual. But it also gives you an idea that the market's getting so one way, different ways, right? So we got that going. I mentioned that silver and gold are both up, and the European indexes are all up as we speak. Just bear with me 1 second. I just want to share one thing with you. Yeah, so overnight, the numbers out of Australia were, and that's why we saw that pump. The November retail sales were 7.3%, much higher than expected, 3.9. The trade service was still a massive 9.4 billion, but they're expecting actually over 10. Now let's think about that for a country that size versus the trade deficit that's in the United States. It's like 80 billion for a country much larger. The Australian all odds, the ASX was down 0.7%. With those different numbers, confusion about Omicron, and a lot of that's a concern around the world. Who can people get back to work? Basically, testing and the likes. We had a few numbers out of Europe already. Italy's retail sales were weak. England's labour productivity was very weak, minus 1.4%, 0.1. I'm not surprised that was that negative. I'm more surprised that they're expecting a good number with what's going on there. What was interesting too, Spain, who's been the real laggard at the last 12 months, had a 4.8% year-on-year industrial production number. The relevance was, that's a strong number obviously, but they're expecting just 0.6%. Analysts are astounding again in their ability to forecast, aren't they? AMD is up 1.6%. They're upgraded to overweight. So there we have it today. Other stocks that are up, we talked about very briefly. The big ones, Illumina, ILMN after going higher. And that's pretty well it. There was, for something different, North Korea conducted another missile test this week. That seems to be fairly consistent, doesn't it? So today, we're going to keep our eyes out on basically what Powell says. That has a fair bit of power right now because tomorrow is CPI, the following day is PPI. So lots of talk about inflation. That's going to be on everyone's mind. All those congressmen and worried about their stock positions, no doubt. Am I being cynical? I'm not sure. I think there's a quick little overview that someone just sent me. What I look at, I always have these in the corner: the S&P, the Russell, oil, and natty gas. So important to focus on what you know and what influences you. Stock wise, I keep an eye on ARC weekly, Apple. These are all weekly. I actually break these down to 5 minutes when the market's open. ARC-G. So we have Apple up around 172, ARC-G 5180, ARC-K 8420. This is your beast, obviously. These are your speculative hands. We watch VIX. VIX is off quite a lot from the high, which gives you an idea of the cost of coverage of puts. If we talk of the put skew, Amazon, SMH, obviously. If you look at the 60-minute on SMH, looks what's stopping it right there, the cage. And NVIDIA, and of course the tilts. So everyone have a wonderful day, and keep in mind, keep your positions. Remember, it's going to be very thin. Keep your positions in mind of what you're at. Beware if you're in options of the vol and the spreads and what you're doing. And that's about it. Everyone, good luck. Have a great day. We will speak to you later. Follow us. We'll try to keep updated on Twitter when we can. Traders.com. Like us, subscribe, and all that good stuff on the YouTube. Trade smart.